I'm Nyesha McCauley, and you're watching AccessTV.org.
This is Jonathan Small, host and producer of All About You, and this program is broadcast every single week live at AccessTV.org studios in downtown Hartford. This afternoon, I'm kind of doing a little special show with a superstar entertainer from a very popular singing group from starting back as far back as 1958. And my guest this afternoon is going to give a little bit about his life story and the music business industry that he is into. My guest this afternoon is a member of a famous singing group called the OJs, and his name is Eric Nolan. Good afternoon, Eric. How you doing, man?
I'm great.
Okay. Could you kind of let people know, I know you're from Cleveland, Ohio, but what was it like growing up in Cleveland, Ohio?
Oh, rough, man.
Mm-hmm.
I'm no different than nobody else coming out the hood trying to make it. I mean, I had a rough childhood. You know what? But looking back on it, yeah, I had a rough childhood, but then I didn't look at it as being so rough. I looked at it as being a way of life. You know what I mean? Because monthly, we knew that the first week of the month was going to be like Christmas. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
We knew we was going to get the best of food. You know, we knew we was going to eat hamburgers and French fries and, you know, and we was going to have Kool-Aid and all of that stuff. We knew we was going to have all that. And then get towards the third week of the month, you know, we knew we was going to have Chef Surprise. You know what I mean? We knew that my mother was going to, she was going to take some hamburger meat and it was going to be Creole macaroni, spaghetti. It was going to be, everything was going to be made out of hamburger because she used to get a big thing of hamburger this big and everything was made out of that. And then towards the end, you know, it was beans and hot water cornbread and mayonnaise sandwiches and stuff like that. You know what I mean? So my childhood growing up, probably what I'm saying is probably, you know, it's a million people that went through the same thing I went through. So like I said, looking back on it, yeah, it was a rough childhood, but then we didn't look at it as a rough childhood. We looked at it as that's the way it's supposed to be.
But Eric, when you're saying rough, you're talking about being poor, being dangerous, being, you know, disappointed, you know, kind of let people know exactly what you mean when you're saying a rough childhood. You know, you mentioned about the first and the third of the month. So,
I mean, that, yeah, it was dangerous because we came up, the way I came up, you know, there was gangs that was territorial when it comes to streets, and I hung out on all the streets.
Okay.
Because I was still singing, I was still around, you know, I was still trying to recruit people to sing in my singing group. And I even had a couple of gang members singing with me, you know what I mean? That, you know, basically didn't make me choose, you know, what gang I was gonna be in. But I got into a couple of skirmishes back then, and so I did take up with a gang. And it's not like the gangs today. It's not like the Bloods or the Crips or anything like that. It was basically street gangs. You know what I mean? Like I belonged to a street gang, 111th Street Stallions. So I belonged to that gang. Whereas there was a 112th Street and there was 117th Street. You know what I'm saying? They had gangs. And so basically we were territorial, but our territory was our street. You know what I'm saying? And we didn't carry guns, we carried knives, you know, or bats or, you know, stuff like that. And if we had 12 people in our gang, trust me, 9 of them were good with their hands. 9 of us could actually really for real fight. You know what I mean? So yeah, that's what I mean when I say rough.
Yeah.
You know.
Well, what decade was this that we're talking about? The 70s, 80s? I mean,
yeah, this was like 70s.
Okay.
This was like 70s. Because back then I still had the focus of wanting to be an entertainer. Still, I wanted to be a singer. But in my neighborhood, be a singer, but you can't be soft either.
Got to be hardcore even back then.
Yeah, man, because you gotta. Yeah, and like I said, I came up on the street of a gang street.
Mm-hmm.
You know what I mean? So they're gonna test you. You know what I mean? And so you got to pass that test, or you know, you going to get picked on, get your lunch money taken from you, and stuff like this. You know what I mean? But myself and my brother Mitchell, my brother played football, so you know, my brother was kind of stocky. I was always slim, but I was good with my hands.
Okay.
I was really good with my hands. You know what I'm saying? But I just didn't have no weight behind.
No weight behind. Yeah, okay. So
my brother was my weight. You know what I'm saying? And my brother was younger than me, but he was my weight because he was more built and stocky, and that was my little backup. You know what I mean? So we was thick as thieves. We hung together. My brother is my best friend. So and we only 10.5 months apart. So you know, we was always together. So
but you know, Eric, you was kind of fortunate. You mentioned this is back in the 70s, and you fought at that time with your fists, maybe, you know, sticks and bats every now and then. This probably wasn't about the drug game, beefing for drug turf that took place in the 80s. So it kind of happened before.
No. I mean, even back then, when people was doing heroin and they was doing the hard drugs, there was adults. There was basically adults, and there was people, and those were basically adults in our eyes. There was people in the 30s and 40s that was selling drugs. You know what I'm saying? The most we ever did, if we thought we was a drug dealer, is we sold joints. You know what I mean? We sold a little dollar, you know, you roll up a joint and get your nickel bag of weed and get 11 joints out of it, and then you go to school, you sell the joints for $1. You know what I'm saying? You made $11 off of 5. So, you know, we was balling like that.
Yeah,
you know, but it wasn't nothing about no drug turf. We wasn't getting millions and hundreds of thousands and nothing like that. It was nothing like that back then, man. It was a different era.
Plus, you didn't have the hip hop really established.
We didn't have it at all.
At all, okay.
No, we didn't have it at all. I mean, Sugar Hill Gang didn't come until like the 80s. You know what I'm saying? So, and you know, they wasn't rapping about violence or guns and killing. They was rapping about, you know, fun stuff. You know what I mean? So, no, we didn't have any of that. You know what I'm saying? We had the Temptations and Bobby Womack, the OJs, Stylistics. We had that. To listen to, and that music was basically, well, you know, it was R&B, so it was basically about love. Well, never about killing or none of that. I mean, you could be political, you know, like.
Well, excuse me, your boy Bootsy Collins is from Cincinnati. Parliament Funkadelic probably was the closest thing to somewhat of a rap style, because some people say George Clinton actually did a rap version, but probably not a mini rap song, but he kind of did a little rap style in some of his singing style.
Well, they all did. I mean, a lot of the bands did. A lot of the bands we considered risque back then. I mean, your Bootsy Collins, I mean, your Parliament Funkadelic, your Ohio Players. I mean, they was risque. You know, the stuff they used to have naked women on their covers of their albums, and you had Johnny Guitar Watson, and those kind of cats. They was risque, but it wasn't nothing like. There's nothing like like today. I mean, even the OJs. The OJs got a record banned by Jesse Jackson called "Work on Me."
Okay,
and they said it was sexually suggested, so they petitioned and they banned it off the radio. They wouldn't let it get played, and it's nothing. It was nothing suggestive about it. It all depends where your mind was at, you know what I mean, when you heard it.
Well, Eric, you mentioned the OJs, and you know, I know you coming up close to 20 years of being a member of the OJs, but you kind of grew up with, I guess, Eddie Levert's son, 2 sons, Gerald and Sean.
Yeah, I had a singing group in Cleveland called the Deltones, and back then we were considered Cleveland's top #1 group locally. The only group that was getting the accolades as the Deltones, or more than Deltones, was the Daz Band. And because the Daz Band had a major record deal, they were with Motown at the time. We were trying to get to that level, but we were still commanding performances where we would sell out. People would be lined up around the block just to see us perform. And I'm not putting no yeast on it. This literally would happen.
Right.
To the point to where the clubs we were playing at, we had to do 2 shows nightly. They would bring the people in, and then they would ask them all to leave out, and then a new batch of people come in. So we was like one of the first to do that in Cleveland. And Gerald was up and coming. Gerald started out being a solo artist.
Okay.
Sean was on drums and Mark was on keyboards. So they had a band called the Levert Band.
Okay.
And Gerald was the lead singer. And so then Gerald wanted a singing group, a la his dad and what we were doing, Deltones were doing. So he pulled Sean off the drums and pulled Mark off the keyboards. And then they formed the group Levert. Well, Gerald actually thought my group was going to make it first because we were recording with Gamblin' Huff and Bunny Sigler and all those cats out of Philadelphia.
Okay.
So everybody had high hopes that we were going to be the next big group to come out of there since the Daz Band, because OJ's had already made it.
Right.
Bobby Womack had already made it. So it didn't happen for us over there at Philadelphia. But me and Gerald made a pact. Whoever made it first, come back and get the other one. Because Gerald, in his thinking, is thinking, I'm about to make it. Right. So that's his ticket of me grabbing him and pulling him in. And it has it that Levert got the big contract and they started making waves. And Gerald never forgot me. You know what I mean? We stayed in touch even while he was touring and traveling. He would call me when he's on the road, tell me about the things he experiencing and things that happened to him and people he met and these kind of things. And I would be at home because I was living vicariously through him. You know what I'm saying? The road life and how that is. Because I was just a local so-called local so-called celebrity, whatever. But I just wanted to know how it was, you know. So Gerald would always, you know, he would call me and let me know different things. And as he became a solo artist, he just never forgot me. I was still trying to make it. I moved to Detroit for 4 years, still trying to do it. And he called me one day when I was in Detroit. How he found me, I don't know. I didn't have a cell phone then. He called me in my hotel room and he said, Dad and them got an opening for a spot in the OJs.
Right.
He said, I need you to come back home. I need you to come back here and be with the family. You know, we're your family. You need to come back here and be with family. And so I came back and I just became a studio rat. I was the first one there. I was there before Gerald and I left when Gerald left. When Gerald left the studio, that's when I left. And Gerald was definitely a studio rat. And he told his dad about me. His dad definitely, Eddie just said, well, yeah, he's a good local artist, but he's not worried. He's not ready for prime time. He's not ready for the big leagues, but he's good. And Gerald continuously, Dad, I'm telling you, this is the guy. This is the guy. This is the guy that you need to really. And so they finally gave me a shot at it. But Gerald was so cool. Gerald camouflaged it in a way where he was like, they was having a meeting. I'll never forget this meeting. They was having a meeting and they said, they was putting together the first Father and Son tour. And so Gerald wanted a guy, because Gerald always had girls singing background. He wanted a guy to sing background. And so we was in a meeting. Well, they were in the meeting. I was just there. And I said, who are we going to get for the guy? And then that's when Gerald said, we'll get Eric for the guy. I didn't audition or anything for the backgrounds. He just said, we got Eric. Eric's going to be one of the background singers, and we're going to use two of the girls that I had before. Okay, so I'm like, cool. So what Gerald did, Gerald gave me the list. It was 27 songs. So they said, well, how are we going to do this OJ's thing? Because there's not a third member of the OJ's. And I told Gerald, I said, I could do it. And he said, well, how are you going to do that? I said, because the way the show is set up, you know, the background singers are singing, but Gerald has a part where he does by himself before the OJ's come out. And when Gerald's last song was I Give Anything and Everything to Fall in Love, I would sneak off stage and go put on the OJ's uniform and come out with the OJ's.
Right, okay.
And then I would sing the rest of the show with the OJ's and Levert, because we had a part in the show where we would do each other's songs. And that's how I did it every night. I would do the first half with me being a regular background singer, and I would wear glasses and a hat. And then I would go off stage and I'd take off my glasses and my hat And then I put on the OJ's uniform and I come out with the OJ's.
Well, what created the opening for the third member? I know one of the members passed away.
Will passed away. And then they got Sammy Strain. Sammy Strain was a member of Lil Anthony and the Imperials. Sammy Strain was with them for 16 years. Now, the OJ's went on hiatus for 2 years. They didn't work for 2 years. Well, Sammy, like myself, Sammy was on salary. Well, Sammy couldn't afford to be off for 2 years. So Dick Clark was doing some kind of reunion, a reunion thing for Lil Anthony and the Imperials. And Sammy went back and did the reunion show with Lil Anthony, because at the time Lil Anthony was doing solo stuff. So they got together and they did a show for Dick Clark. And Sammy stayed. They decided to stay as a group and work Vegas and Reno and all that kind of stuff. And he stayed. He never came back to the OJ's. And then they got a gentleman by the name of Nate Best out of Nashville. He stayed with him for about 16 months. Yeah. And they didn't have no success with him, and you know, things happened and they got rid of him. And then in '95, that's when Gerald came to me.
Well, Eric, let's take a break and let's come back and get towards your role as a member of the OJ's and talk a little bit about the OJ's history and kind of see where the chemistry and everything kind of blends together with you joining the OJ's towards, you know, a different type of style, or, you know, continuing the same type of style of music that they was portraying. This is Jonathan Small. I'm hosting a special edition of All About You this afternoon with my special guest, Eric Nolan, as a member of the OJ's, and we will be right back very shortly. Thank you.
How do you judge a law firm's success? Cases won, money made, or what the firm does in the community? At Dressler Strickland, we know that success is just the beginning. The true measure of success is what you do with it. For 33 years, we've used our success to help our neighbors and our community. 24/7, 11/22. Whenever you need us, we'll be there. Dressler Strickland, building communities one case at a time.
Good afternoon again. This is Jonathan Small. I'm hosting a special edition of All About You this afternoon with my very special guest, a member of the OJ's, Eric Nolan. Eric, you joined the OJ's, a group that was already established with a lot of major hits with Huff and Gamble. And I guess did you look at yourself as being like the new kid on the block that you kind of have to prove yourself, or did they kind of just fit you in with welcome arms? I mean, what was the whole feel like when you officially became a member of the OJ's? I mean, honestly.
Honestly, no. They did not accept me with open arms. They didn't. It was a feeling like being jumped into a gang or something. You know what I mean? It was like, okay, with the OJ's is a top class, first class act. Everything they do is first class. Right. Everything. I mean, that's just the way they are. That's the way they do everything. So they have handlers. They have people that handle our bags. You know what I'm saying? We don't touch anything. Like when we get off the tour bus, everybody in the bag, the valet picks up our bags. He finds out what rooms we are, have our bags at our room. Well, when I first got in the group, nobody touched my bags. Right. They made me carry my own bags. And they, on the tour bus, everybody is assigned, I mean, everybody picked their bunks. I wasn't allowed to pick my bunk until everybody picked their bunks. Okay. So I had to pick the last bunk. But see, what the OJ's didn't know was that in coming up in my household, we grew up on bunk beds. So I always had the top bunk. Right. So I'm used to the top bunk. So when everybody got their bunks, nobody never picked the top bunk. So I was at home then because I love the top bunk. Yeah. And my per diem was little. I had a real itty bitty per diem. they just didn't welcome me like that. It was like business as usual. This is your job and this is what you have to do. And when I came into the group, I was just in awe of these two legends. Everything was yes sir, Mr. Levert, yes sir, Mr. Williams, and I was just incredibly polite, man. I was over the top with it.
Mm-hmm.
And they would just shake their heads at me, be like, boy,
yeah,
you better change that because you keep doing that, we're gonna have our way with you. You know what I'm saying? So no, it wasn't open arms. Actually, they never said I was in the OJs for 2 years.
2 years, okay.
2 years. I remember it was at the Grand Ole Opry in Nashville, Tennessee. That's when they finally said the newest member of the OJs, Eric Nolan Grant.
Let me give you a little example about sometimes how you got to prove yourself. You know, we was talking about basketball coming from the hotel to the studio. When Byron Scott, because I'm a big Los Angeles Lakers fan, when they made the trade from Norm Nixon, I guess, to get Byron Scott, Magic, Kareem, Wordley, all of the players hated him, man. They was blocking his shots in practice and doing everything because they just the chemistry with Norm Nixon and Magic and Michael Cooper was so strong. And I'm kind of wondering that maybe the group kind of felt, I'm not saying this is the case in your situation, that sometime when you have this chemistry bond with one of the original members, that it's tough to really accept somebody new, or you just felt it was just the nature of the business?
No, that's a great assessment. It was tough to accept someone new, especially since Sammy had made such a mark. I mean, they were very close to Will, and that was a painful situation when Will passed. And when they got Sammy was such a great fit, and he was such a showman. They didn't know what they were going to get from me.
All right.
You know what I mean? So, and he was funny. Sammy Strain was funny. He was just cool. He was a cool guy. And then when Sammy left and they got Nate Best, and Nate Best actually gave them a lot of problems. And to the point when Nate was making this money, I guess they felt like he just changed. You know what I mean? So even when I got in the group, they didn't even give me the money that they gave Nate. And Nate was only in the group for like I said, 18 months. I didn't start off making that. You know what I mean? They refused to pay me that kind of money in the beginning because I guess they thought I was going to change. What they didn't know was that if I didn't have bills to pay, they could have actually got me for free because I love to sing and I was in love with the OJs. Right. That the OJs was like our heroes in Cleveland. You know what I mean? My group that I patterned my group after the OJs. You know, so they didn't understand that I was just so happy to sing with these two guys. Even so, to the point to where I would be on stage sometimes, and I would just watch them. Right. And Eddie or Walt would come by and give me an elbow or a nudge and say, "Hey, sing. You're supposed to be singing." But I just couldn't believe that these women were actually falling out over these, what I thought was old guys. You know what I mean? I'm like, these old guys still doing this. You know, this is like a New Edition concert or something. You know what I'm saying? I'm like looking at these people screaming and hollering like we was the Beatles. I'm like, really? Over these two? Oh, them two. You know, but the songs and the shows and the way they sing speaks for themselves, man. It took me years to get used to, and notice what I'm about to say. It took me years to get used to singing with the OJs. Okay. I'm still not used to being in the OJs. I don't know if that makes sense. It took me years to get used to singing with them. But sometimes it seems surreal sometimes because actually I talk about them in third person. Okay. Because I still don't look at myself as, I mean, I know I'm a member and I know that I did 20 years. I've done a lot of things with these guys. I got a lot of awards with these guys.
Y'all was also inducted in the Rock and Roll Hall of Fame together. Was that?
Yes, sir. In 2005. And I did that. I got we got nominated for a Grammy off of an album that I helped co-wrote with Eddie and Walt and produced. I got numerous of Lifetime Achievement Awards with these guys. And what was told to me by a journalist, he said, because of you, you kept the brand going.
Okay.
Because if you hadn't been there, then they had got another guy that was 67, 68, 70 years old, they'd be just an old group.
Old group, yeah.
They wouldn't have the appeal to a younger generation. You know, that's what a journalist told me. I seem to think that I keep the energy going, and I know Eddie and Walt is competitive. So if I'm energized, if I'm doing something and I'm like energy, I got a lot of energy, Eddie is going to try to match that energy.
Yeah.
You know what I'm saying? That's how Eddie is. You're not going to outdo Eddie Levert. So, and Walter is so cool with his
cool style, yeah.
You know what I mean? So he's going to always try to be just a little bit more smoother with his. And so we got a great chemistry. Sometimes I just look at these guys and I think about their body of work, and I think about all the things that they accomplished. And I just say, wow, man, I'm with those guys.
Those guys, yeah.
You know what I'm saying? I'm with these guys. These guys, 57 years. That means that, and I talk to Eddie and Walt about this a lot. I mean, not a lot, but you know, sometimes. They came up when there was black drink water here, whites drink water here. They came up where you had to go around the back to get your food.
Yeah.
They came up with outhouses when there was outhouses.
Right.
They came up where when the bus pulled up to the hotel, the bus had to pull up in the back of the hotel and let them out and let them in the hotel like that. These guys have seen all of this stuff. I have not witnessed that per se.
Right.
You know, the racism is a little bit more hidden.
Yeah.
You know what I'm saying? You got to look up under here for the racism.
Right.
But it's there. It's right there.
It's there, yeah.
But you got to look for it. Or it's in maybe the job market where you won't get the same type of job that they might get or something like that. But they saw blatant racism.
Well, the part of Ohio that they're from, Canton, Ohio, is that the South or kind of the mid borderline?
No, that's considered the Midwest.
The Midwest, okay.
Eddie is from Bessemer, Alabama.
Okay.
You know what I'm saying? So he moved to Canton when he was 6. Walt came there when he was 5. And they met up with each other and they became friends back then. But what I'm getting at is that I had a chance to talk to these guys, and when I look at them and I look at them in today's time in 2014, 2013, all the stuff they endured.
Yeah,
that's what the part that intrigues me about them. Yeah, the music is special, and they had a great relationship with Gamble and Huff, and they made a lot of hit records. But what they endured to get to Backstabbers.
They started in 1958 officially. So
officially, when they did the Lipstick Traces and the Lonely Drifters, they had their first hit record. Their first big hit record was Backstabbers. So to even get to that point, what they endured, you know what I mean? They went through a bunch of managers. They went through all 5 of them, because it was 5 of them at first. They went through all 5 of them sleeping in one room apartment with cots and beds and clothes on the floor, sleeping on the floor. They just tried everything to make it. They were so dedicated.
Yeah.
That they moved. They left Canton and went to LA.
Okay.
When they were 17, 18 years old. To try to make it as entertainers. Because everybody felt like LA was where you're supposed to be.
At, yeah.
Yeah. So, but even when I sit in the dressing room, I just did this in Boston last week. And I was in the middle of those two, and we were just talking and laughing and joking. And I just looked at those two, and I just saw all those years, man. And I just saw all the stuff they endured to get to right here, and they're still laughing.
Yeah.
They're not some old man that's grumpy, and that's not them.
That's not their style. Yeah.
If you came past our dressing room, you won't hear nothing but laughter, because all we do is tell jokes and laugh all day. Tour bus, where all we do is laugh till we go to sleep about something or somebody.
Right.
Trust me.
Let me ask you a question. Are you part of this new record label, Wonder Brothers Records? Is that something that you're part of, or that's something different?
No, Boy Wonder Records.
Yeah, okay, Boy Wonder Records.
Yeah, Boy Wonder Records is my label.
That's your record label.
That's my record label.
Okay.
I started it. I started that label in 2011.
That's in Cleveland, Ohio?
That's in Cleveland, Ohio.
Okay.
I started that label. I started that label as like I don't want to say gimmick. I wanted to put out I had a couple of deals on the table for my single, for my songs I was doing in the studio. And the record, the contracts that I was getting was what I call rookie contracts. They were very vague. They were very one-sided. And I just had to let them know, man, I'm not a rookie in this game. I really know this game. You know what I mean? And I learned from two of the best in the game. I'm not gonna allow you to give me that type of contract.
Is that how you have to approach it when you're getting into this music game or this music business?
I don't know. I don't know if that's how you have to approach it. I just know that's how I approached it.
Okay.
Because of the knowledge I have and that I have acquired and accumulated from my counterparts. You know what I mean? Because they school me daily.
Right.
And I wasn't going to let that happen to me. So I said, well, I'm not getting the right type of contracts. You know what? I'm going to start my own label. I just said it just like that. I'm going to start my own label, not knowing what everything entailed. And then I said, you know what? I don't want to be corny about it. I don't want to have no label and just, you know, Eric Nolan's just on this label, Boy Wonder Records. I want a roster. I'm going to put a roster together. I'm going to get some groups. So I couldn't find the groups that I wanted. I couldn't find the type of talent because I'm so used to Eddie and Walt. And I'm so used to, you know, coming up with the Dramatics and Delphonics and all of those cats, stylists, where there was real talent, Whispers and all them. I said, I couldn't find no younger cats that could do that. You know what I'm saying? So I just put them together. I just started auditioning groups and singers, and I just put them together myself. And I got 3 acts so far. I got G-Men, which is 3 guys that would remind you of the OJs, but they're not. They're 3 lead singers that I put together with contrasting voices. One guy has a beautiful voice like Eddie Kendricks. Another guy reminds you of Charlie Wilson. Another guy reminds you of Bobby Womack. Okay. And I put those 3 together. And then I put together my group called Naomi and Billy Rich. That's like a throwback from Gladys Knight and the Pips, a younger version of Gladys Knight and the Pips. And then I got a young New Edition type group called Dapper that reminds you of New Edition Temptations because they're all about 6 feet, 5'11", 6 feet tall. They're all athletes, actually. 3 of them played football for their high school and their college, and the other 2 played basketball. So they were very attractive guys, and they can actually sing. You know what I mean? I put them in there, and I put Eric Nolan with this roster. You know what I mean? So I'm like, I got Boy Wonder Records, and these are my groups. You know what I'm saying? So I'm trying to make it seem like I got all this stuff happening, man, so that my company won't be a cornball company. Yeah. But what I didn't know, and I didn't figure into this whole equation of not being a cornball, is that it takes money. So now I'm spending all this money to record all these groups, and I'm spending all this money to do photographs and videos and all this stuff. I'm spending all this money to not be a cornball. What I really should have done, what I should have started my label, got Eric Nolan out there, only because I'm a little bit more recognizable than the artist that I have. Right. Got that going, and then take that money and kind of made it happen from there, that standpoint. Yeah. And opposed to taking all my money out of my account and putting it in there and not getting nothing back. So yes, I got a label called Boy Wonder Records, and I have a roster, and I put out my first single and it did very well, considering I'm a rookie, and considering that I just started my own label.
Or isn't the way the business has changed today comparable to the past? Like when you was like, if you was a recording artist, the big goal was the amount of album sales that you would have to sell to make your profit margin. Isn't today the era that you have to go on tour and do shows? Is it kind of like a reverse scenario that you make your money by the amount of promotion tour that you go, giving concerts throughout the country and throughout the world, more than just your album sales?
Look, it varies only because of only because of your deal. If you're with a major label, 9 times out of 10, that major label is pumping so much money into you, you're never going to see that money anyway.
Okay,
you know what I'm saying? If they put $1 million behind you, they put $500,000 behind you. When you sell those records, they got to recoup anyway. 9 times out of 10, if they say they spent $500,000, they're going to get $750 back. Trust me.
Okay.
All right. So the only way you can make your money is to go on the road. It's the only way you're going to get any money is to get that money. A lot of times they're doing these 360 deals now, where your record label have the hand in all of it. So if I take you and I record you and I record a hit record on you and I put that record out and I put all this money behind you, and because of that you become famous and you become this, you become this guy that everybody looks at and all the girls like and all this, and they just buying your records, you selling millions of records, and you go get a contract with BVD, selling underwear or Hanes. Yeah, I want some of that money too, because of me is the reason why you're able to get that.
Right, that's true.
You see what I'm saying? If you go and do a cereal commercial, because of me, I'm the reason why you even relevant. So I want some of that money too.
Right.
So that's called the 360 deal.
The 360 deal.
Yeah.
Okay.
So now you have to go on the road to eat. You got to go on the road and do all these shows so you can get money. It's not that is any different from back in the day, because back in the day, that's what the Jays did. Gamble Huff did all the records.
Yeah.
The OJs made their money being on the road for 6 months.
Okay.
It's just that the venues now are not as plentiful as it was back then. Back then, the Jays could go here. It didn't go to everything. I mean, it was nothing for them to do Hartford, Boston, Bridgeport. It was nothing for them to do that because all of that was right there. Today, you got to make a lot of money in one spot. Like they're doing arenas now. So maybe they might charge $200,000-$300,000 for a concert, a big concert. But they probably will only do 26. Whereas the Jays will go out for 6 months. Yeah. Easy. See what I'm saying? So the answer to your question is, it's not that it's so much different, but it is different only because of how much is entailed. Back then, all we had was a light and a mic. It wasn't about an image. It wasn't about, you had to look a certain way and dress a certain way and have a certain shape, or and it wasn't about that. It was about, can you sing? Yeah. Period.
Because you got to remember, you didn't have cable, VH1, all these different outlets that you
didn't have today. All that, but you had TV shows.
TV shows, yeah.
Still had TV shows that the groups had to perform on the TV shows, and they would get these they would do these TV shows to promote their product. So they still had that, a la Soul Train. Yeah. You see what I'm saying? Dick Clark show, stuff like that, the Upbeat show. So I always say this, and maybe this is not fair, but I always say this: if your CEO is 32 and he calling the shots, then he can't know. Yeah, he only can know that little arena that he was in right there. He can't know about what's happening back then. So, especially like in my my company. My moniker is where talent makes the image. That's my moniker. Boy Wonder Records, where talent makes the image, because that's the only thing I'm dealing with. I'm dealing with talent. I'm not dealing with image. That's not my major goal. My major goal is to get the talent first, and I can create an image with that talent.
Right.
Trust me, I can. If you were an incredible singer, I'll sit here. I guarantee you, I'll sit here 20 minutes, and by the time I leave out of here, I have the perfect image for you.
Okay.
You know what I'm saying? You would either be a ladies' man, or you'll be the real guy. You know what I'm saying? You'll be a guy who could really sing, but you'll be also a guy that the guys can relate to and the women can relate to.
Okay.
You know what I'm saying? That's like the OJs. There was no image built for the OJs, but the OJs is all of the guys guy. No guys are intimidated by the OJs.
Right.
You know what I'm saying? Because we're those guys. We're just guys. And the women love those songs.
Yeah.
And they love Eddie getting ugly and doing his thing and sweating and tearing his clothes off and all that. It's like that kind of stuff. You know what I mean? So, and they like that walk smooth. So, yeah, it's different, but it's not different. It's just the way that they do things now. And they put so much money behind the image that they got to get that money back.
Yeah.
They got to. By the time you get finished getting your hair fixed and your teeth fixed and your legs fixed and you getting shots and all this kind of, oh man, by the time they get finished and getting you a personal trainer and getting you a six-pack and all that crap, man,
you're finished.
They gotta get their money.
Get money back. Actually, we are out of time. I just want to give a little extension because you did a tremendous job flying in from Cleveland, Ohio.
Man, we could do some more talking. Y'all just cut this
thing. Okay, we can continue talking. And we just go, but we do gotta give Stan a chance to get himself together and get this thing online.
Okay.
But we are doing a live show, and the OJs are performing tonight at the Marriott Hotel.
You know more than me.
I know more than you about the hometown. Well, this is my hometown too.
Right. And you know more than me. I come here to do the work.
It's part of a 50-year anniversary of the Urban League.
It's the Urban League gig. Okay.
And I guess the OJs are going to be the singing entertainment portion of the 50-year anniversary.
We've done a lot of things for the Urban League. So they're like, they're like our sponsors or something, man, because we do a lot of stuff for Urban League. I do want to say this. I want to try to direct people because I know that my handlers are going to have a fit if I don't. One, I have to say that I have a new single out called "I Miss You." It's on Boy Wonder Records. It's you can get it on the new CD called Mood Swing on Amazon and iTunes. Amazon.com and iTunes.com.
You can look directly in the camera and let people know. All
okay, I'll let y'all know. Okay. I have a new record out called "I Miss You." The first single was called "Reminds Me," and it's on Boy Wonder Records. The title of the album is called "Mood Swings." You can get that on Amazon.com and iTunes.com. I have a Facebook page, Eric Nolan Grant, TOO, Eric Nolan Grant 2. I have a fan page on Facebook, Eric Nolan. I also have an Instagram. That is, I am Eric Nolan on Instagram, and I got a Twitter page too. I just remembered, Eric Nolan Grant on Twitter. Those are all the things I'm supposed to say, so I said them. Okay,
appreciate that, man. It was good to have you in the capital city of Hartford, and I wish you very success tonight on your performance at the Urban League's 50-year anniversary.
Appreciate you, man.
Okay, no problem. This is Jonathan Small. I had enjoyed doing this special edition of All About You this afternoon with my special guest, Eric Nolan, a member from the OJs.
I'm a special guest.
He is my special guest. But I will be going back to my normal Wednesday morning show that I usually do. But this is just a special opportunity I want to take advantage of. And I appreciate my executive producer and the owner of the network, Stan McCauley, of giving me the opportunity to do the special show this afternoon. And I tell y'all every single week, there's a lot of dynamite programs that you could always look at on accesstv.org network through the week. And you know my last saying that I always also say to people out there, have a very blessed day and keep the faith. Thank you.
I'm his special guest.
Yeah, I said that more than once.
Now, you good.
You
Is
know.
Mr. McCauley, still running for mayor?
Oh, you know about that?